Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, and we are streaming live from the Moses Lake Professional Podcast Studio, and we are super excited to have Robbie Raugh Francisco back on our podcast. Robbie, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your history and how we have so much in common about health and wellness and in the medical field.
Oh, yes, that was a total God thing that we met. But back in the day, my mom, asked me, she said, "Do you want to be a nurse or a teacher?" I mean, those were the two choices. So I said, "Well, I guess I'll be a nurse because I'm interested in health." And I went into the nursing field and basically was very frustrated back then. I mean, this was 40 years ago. And I just felt that I wasn't helping people to get well. I was just treating dis-ease, as I like to call it. I was just so frustrated. I'm like, why are these people here? And I don't even know why back then I had that on my heart, but I just felt like I wanted to be on the other end of nursing, which I call preventative nursing, which is what I ended up doing later on in the health and fitness and wellness and nutrition field. And that's been my passion now for about 30 years.
I love it. So, Janet, what questions do you have for Robbie?
Okay, Robbie, since we hit the prevention side, give our listeners a little bit on that journey, because when we see nurse, we just think either, in a doctor's office or in the hospital. So you've been doing quite some different things. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what in your life, in your career, has the nursing and wellness taken you? What places?
Yes, it's very interesting. First of all, I just want to say that, obviously we need healthcare providers. My daughter's a doctor. I'm a nurse. I love nurses. I love doctors. And I respect what they all do and what we've done over the years. But what I did once, I worked in the hospital for about 15 years, and I worked in the emergency room, and I worked in ICU, and I worked with kids, and I worked, in cancer centers. I just on my heart, like, I just thought, what is making these people sick? Like, I want to help them to be well before they get here. So I just started, like, kind of researching. I started, first of all, working at a gym, and I worked my way up the ladder of Bally Total Fitness, which was, national company. I worked my way up the ladder there to a national position in Chicago, and was loving my job and helping people to exercise. And halfway through my career, as health and fitness guru, I guess you would call it. And at that time I was featured on ESPN as having the largest regularly held class in the world and all this crazy stuff. I mean, like,
Wow.
it was just going. But halfway through my career, my father got cancer, and that was hard. I was like, wow, why? There's no cancer in my family. But what really rocked my world is when my sister, who had been misdiagnosed for 2 years with what was doctors said at that time was a blocked milk duct, end up being rightly diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer at the ripe old age of 42.
Wow.
And we went to all the world-class hospitals. I mean, like, world-class hospitals in New York City and Buffalo, in Ohio, and all over. And really, all of the world-class doctors kept saying, go home and get your affairs in order. You have weeks and months to live. This is spread too much. There's really nothing we can do. And we have some experimental treatments and things like that. But my sister had a strong will to live. She had 2 babies at home and 2 older boys. And, we, first of all, got down on our knees and prayed. But also we got on the computer and we started researching nutrition and cancer and everything. And my sister was a sugarholic, we all were. I say we grew up in the dessert capital of the world, my mother's house. And what happened was, we started seeing that there was research on the link between cancer and sugar and cancer and dairy. in animal products. And, I read the China study and saw forks over knives and all these things. And I thought, wow, in all these world-class doctors, no one mentioned diet whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right.
So, in fact, when you went for a mammogram back then, there was chocolate in the waiting room, chocolate
Right.
cake. So we changed my sister's diet. I bought her a juicer. We started juicing, and this was 25, what? No, it was about 35 years ago. And long story short, my sister, who had been given only weeks and months to live, lived 10 years.
Wow.
And so I tell
Wow.
that to so many people that you can change your health. I mean, if I had known what I know now back then, I know I could have helped her change it even more. But this was relatively new information. No one was talking about diet or exercise and all of that back then in the mainstream media, and not even outside of the mainstream media. No one was talking about it. I mean, people looked at us like, what are you talking about?
Yep.
So, when I asked doctors, should she be eating more phytonutrients and anti-cancer foods and broccoli and cauliflower and all of the things that we need, cruciferous vegetables that are anti-cancer, and the list goes on and on. They were like, well, yeah, I guess so, but it wasn't, they didn't know. So long story short, my sister did live 10 years. Those years were tough, I will say, because she went through some experimental treatments and all kinds of stuff, but she was here 10 more years. And so what happened during that time is I just shifted my focus from my weight and my gene size and everybody else's weight and gene size to health and nutrition, and how, you can change your health. And I promised my sister in those last couple days of her life that I would get the message out to people that you don't have to accept a death sentence, that you actually can do something about your health and not only prevent disease, but actually reverse disease through your dietary habits and your lifestyle. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Wow. You know, do you feel any kind, because now all of a sudden, Robbie, it's cool to talk about health and wellness, and that drugs aren't the answer, and that big pharma has captured our healthcare system, and so Jen and I have definitely not been doing it as long as you have, but we've been doing it for a couple decades. And do you feel any kind of justification now? Like now it's all of a sudden, you're not so crazy. Do you feel like that at all?
Well, yeah, actually, especially in the last 2 months, I feel like, wow, okay. I mean, this is a miracle what's happening now.
Right.
I do, I mean, I'm going to be 69 in a few months, and, to see where we are right now, I mean, taking red dye out of our food and, quote unquote food,
Right.
this stuff is just like, wow, okay. I mean, I've been talking about seed oils for 4 decades, and people
Right.
were looking at me like I was crazy. So, I think it's great that it's going on right now, and it's never too late for anyone to get on the train that we're on. And, our healthcare system is so broke. We've talked about this before. I say there's a pill for every ill, and then you get a bill, and that is not healthcare. That
Yep.
is sick care. And that's
Right.
what I was doing in the hospital. I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, let's face it. 85% of all diseases that we treat, hypertension, high cholesterol, reflux. I mean, the list goes on. All these diseases are lifestyle related diseases. We don't need some drug for them. We just need to change our diet and our lifestyle.
100%. I mean, I taught, classes. I'm still teaching fitness classes at the gym. I thought I was going to retire around 50 or 60, and now I'm going to be 70 next year. And I'm like, I'm just keeping going. And, my classes are packed with people from the age 20 on up. And, the fact that I know I can decrease my chances of getting high cholesterol, high blood pressure, this, that, and other things, 7 different cancers by exercising. Why wouldn't I do that?
Right. Yeah.
not only just that, but your mental and physical health go together. And, I mean, Shawn and I have talked about this many, many times. If we had just put somebody on exercise before we threw a pill at them, perhaps they wouldn't be still struggling with that modality that they've been given. And it's sad to see. But I got a question for you. So over the weekend, we had a friend that made a post about VO2 max or aerobic workout versus lifting weights. And in my opinion, I struggle with it a little bit because I think we need both. But when we have people that are so sick, that are metabolically sick coming into us, what's your advice for that person that's just starting their journey? Because I feel like it could be really overwhelming.
Oh yeah, 100%. I always try and encourage people, first of all, to just start. I mean, if you can put on your sneakers today and go to the mall and walk, if there is a mall,
Right.
Yep.
you know, put on, your boots and get outside and walk or do something. Just do something. If you can crawl, crawl. If you can walk, walk. If you can run, run, but do something every single day. Um, you will feel so much better afterwards. Counting your steps and, wearable technology is it is actually the number one fitness trend for 2025, according to the American College of Sports Medicine. Wearable technology, tracking what we're doing. Why do we do that? Because you cannot manage what you don't measure, and it's
Right.
motivating to you.
Right.
So if you can get out there and start walking is a great exercise. I don't like to put a lot of pressure on people. I mean, they see what I kind of do because I post a lot on social media. I'm lifting weights, I'm doing cycling, I'm doing this. A lot of what you guys are doing, by the way, which is so impressive, 100 miles. But I just say start with something as easy as walking. And I do encourage people to join a gym because when you're in that atmosphere, you can have a trainer tell you what to do, but you're with people who are all different sizes and all different ages and encouraging one another. It's motivating. And so, really, what is the right exercise? The right exercise is the one that's going to get you off the couch and start moving, and then take it from there. I mean, I know for me, we start losing muscle at age 35. I'm way past that. So I lift weights, but I also cycle. I also walk. I also, like to snowshoe and do some things like that. But, the best exercise that you can do is something that's going to get you off the couch. And once you start exercising, you feel so much better afterwards. You want to do it again and
Yeah.
Right.
again and again.
And just like you say, don't make it complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. And we've said over and over in our podcast that the best antidepressant ever invented
Mhm.
is exercise.
Yeah,
Period.
100%.
I mean, when have you ever felt bad, Robbie, after exercising?
Never.
Right. Right.
I love the endorphin effect.
Yep.
You know, you feel, well, especially if you're doing something like you guys do with cycling and all of that. You're in a group exercise. It's for a reason because energy produces energy. So if you don't have energy, that's okay. Just start exercising because that's how you get energy, especially if you're in a group of cyclists or somebody, a group class at the gym, or even working out by yourself at the gym. You're with like-minded people, and that's motivating to you.
Absolutely. So now let's switch to diet. So if somebody has a horrible diet and they're sick
Mhm.
and they want to get better, what's the first thing you would do to start with them on their diet?
Yes. Well, I see people all across the US and Canada, by the way, via Zoom or whatever. I do group classes and I also do one-on-ones on Zoom or in person. And the first thing I do is obviously ask people for their goals because, I have four important keys, which I can tell you about later on how people can reach their goals. But the first thing is, to know what your goal is, to set
Mhm.
realistic goals. Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to increase your energy level? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to feel better? Are you trying to look better? What is it? And so once I know their goal, then I can take it from there. And generally, people ask me, well, what do you think? Well, let's take some measurements because you cannot manage what you don't measure. So we look at their body fat percent. I look at their waist circumference and their hip circumference. And I look at, obviously their body fat and their weight. But the weight doesn't tell the whole story, as you guys know, because our body fat percent, you can be skinny fat. You can have a high
Right.
percent of body fat and look thin. So that body fat percent is so important. Once we look at what they're doing, and then I could say, wow, okay, your body fat is normal, or your body fat is in, an obese category. And we know obesity is linked to so many things. I mean, if you didn't figure that out during COVID, I don't know what what
Right.
we can help you with. I mean, we know that obesity was a risk factor for COVID and so many other conditions as well. So if someone is obese, that is the first thing that I try and do is work something out for them, a program and dietary habits, habits and a plan to help them get that body fat down so that they live that abundant life that we're all designed to live. I have told people straight out, you're a heart attack waiting to happen. I'm not kidding. I mean, I don't say that lightly, but I mean, sometimes I have to speak the truth to people, and it's kind of shocking to some people, but we don't get a phone call or a text message or a warning when we're going to have a cardiac event, as you know. So, people need to know, but um, you know, to get people to change their habits, it's a process. I mean, it takes 21 days to make or break a change of your habit. And so I generally give them a set of things to help them to change their habits, but I'll also give them a plan. But there's wiggle room in that plan because, people are living, they're going out to eat and they're doing this and they're doing that. And there is some wiggle room, but some people they're like, give me something that's very simple. And I say, okay, eat this, not that. And here's your portions. Other people want a specific plan, a dietary plan to follow with recipes and a shopping list and everything else. So whatever works for them easily, that's what I will give them. And some people like a diagram, like this is how many fruits and vegetables you should eat a day, and this is how much protein you should eat a day. But if someone's trying to lose weight, protein and fiber with every meal makes losing weight no big deal. I mean, protein and vegetables, that is our focus. Not that I don't eat carbohydrates, because boy, we know we need carbs for what the kind of
Right.
exercise you two and I do.
Yeah, right.
But the right carbs, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so,
Totally.
we talk about that, and, you know, good grains, bad grains, good fats, bad fats, getting off the sweet stuff, supermarket tour, all of that is included, along with, breaking the chain of, sugar, because so many people are addicted to sugar. And
Yep.
sugar, you can't wean off of sugar, just like you can't wean off of alcohol. If you have a little bit of sugar every day, you're still craving sugar, just like if you have a little bit of alcohol every day. So I want people to actually break the chain. So sometimes I give them a detox, which is very simple. It's not, a special drink or food shipped to their door or anything like that. It's just getting rid of the toxins out of
Right.
their out of their diet that are making them crave junk food. And you just got to break the chain of that sugar and processed food. We live in a processed food
Mhm.
society. So I promote a whole foods dietary plan. Whole foods, meaning you don't need to read a label on a whole food like an apple or
Right.
oatmeal or something like that. There's no ingredients, so you don't have to read any ingredients. It's whole.
Right. That's a very good point.
Yeah, and it's really the food of the earth that God created that we don't need to read a label on. I mean, He gave us the food of the earth to fuel and feed our body, but yet we eat out of a window or a box, and wondering why we feel like junk because we're eating junk.
Well, and we always go back to ancestral eating. Think about what our ancestors did hundreds of years ago. They definitely didn't have a drive-up window or eat out of a box, and they thrived. Um,
Yes.
Obesity was very, very rare, a few hundred years ago, and obesity-related diseases caused more deaths in America than anything. Um, so if we just eat like our ancestors did, like you say, just fresh, real food. That's what we need to eat.
100%. I mean, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And that's right out of the Bible, along with Ezekiel bread, by the way, which is wonderful bread,
Right.
high in protein and high in fiber, So, I mean, portions matter too. I mean, everything is supersized here. And so those portions matter. And I don't care if you're eating too much protein or too much fat or too much carbohydrate. Eventually, it'll turn to fat if you're eating too much of
Correct.
anything. And
Right.
so
Correct.
those portions matter.
Now they do matter. I will say this, Robbie, and I'd love your comment on this. Um, think about what our ancestors did. Our ancestors didn't weigh out portions of food. They just ate until they weren't hungry anymore, but they ate real food. I think it's really difficult to overeat real food. And I mean, think about an apple. How many apples can you eat?
Yeah,
Seriously, I can eat one,
right.
and it's only 100 calories. But how much junk food, Oreo cookies or Doritos could you eat? Thousands of calories worth
Oh,
easily, and you're still not full.
100%. The book Fat, Sugar, Salt talks about how companies will put ingredients in food, which helps us crave more of those
Right.
junk processed foods. And so when we're eating whole foods, we don't want to overeat. We feel satisfied. It has fiber in it, which is so important, not just if you're 80, but
Right?
if you're any age.
Excuse me.
And so, the fact of the matter is, when you're eating healthy,
Thank you.
you don't want to overeat, and you don't even need to overeat, but you should pay attention to portions. I mean, I'm not going to eat the same portion as my husband because he's a lot bigger than I
Right.
am. I
Yeah.
don't need to drink as much water as he does either because I weigh less.
Yeah.
So we need to think about that and look at that. And I really think that when it comes down to it, it's a decision. Everything in life is a decision, right? So what you put on the end of your fork is either going to cause disease or prevent disease.
Right.
What you do with your lifestyle is either going to cause disease or prevent disease. We have the ability to make that choice every single day, like we have a million other choices to make every single day.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, what are your thoughts about? Do you have a lot of optimism about the MAHA movement and the government making our food and our health better? Do you have a lot of optimism?
I'm so excited.
Okay.
I mean, we're light years ahead of where we were just a few months ago.
Right.
You know, I just to have people focusing. I mean, I was in the supermarket about a month ago and I saw people reading labels, not just one person, but like six people were looking at labels. And I'm like, I heard somebody mention seed oils, and I'm like, this is the first time. And I go to the supermarket 4 days a week. I have ever seen that many people looking at labels in the supermarket. And I'm like, there's hope. I mean, and the fact that people are just learning about red dyes and seed oils and sugar and processed food, I'm good with it. I mean, like, yeah, we've all been talking about that for many decades, but to have the mainstream media right now talking about it and talking about our children's health, what? I mean, it's a dream come true. It's a miracle, in my opinion.
It really is. I finally feel that at least it's in the conversation. I mean, I think when it comes to our food and when it comes to our healthcare system, I think the government has a lot to blame when it comes to our system. I hope they can fix it. Like you say, at least it's better than not discussing it. I think ultimately, though, Robbie, it's got to come from the bottom up, from people like you and I educating people about these topics.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, for sure. And parents, parents
Yeah.
being educated and, really starts with what you're serving at home. And also making sure that your kids' schools are not serving them junk and processed food, making the child their lunches yourselves. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, I remember a client of mine saying she was cutting up peppers and vegetables for her lunch, and her child said to her, "Mom, why aren't you cutting up vegetables for me?" And she was like, "Oh, I didn't know you wanted vegetables." Well, you don't ask your kids, you just give them to them.
Right. Right. Yeah. Don't give them a choice.
Right, exactly.
So in a few months, Robbie, you're going to be speaking at our Medical Freedom Northwest conference on,
Ooh,
yes, I'm excited,
so
on
excited.
faith, food, and family. And it's right up your alley. We're going to stream your website here. Um, Tell us a little bit more about this and about the book you wrote.
Thank you so much. Well, for decades, I was speaking in Canada and the US. And, people used to say, do you have what you're saying written down? And I'd be like, no, but I have some exercise videos. And so I thought, well, maybe I should start writing down what I'm saying. So I started, I really honestly prayed about it. And I didn't know how to write a book or anything like that, but I just started writing down what I wanted to communicate to people about what I've learned over the years. And what I learned over the years and talking to patients that came to me, basically, when I started talking to them about their health and asking questions and peeling layers off of what was going on with them, I realized that many people were eating right and exercising, kind of right and exercising, but they had other issues going on. Maybe they were sleep deprived, or they
Right.
weren't managing their
Right.
stress, or they weren't eating organic. They were taking in a lot of pesticides and herbicides and all of this. And so when I started peeling off the layers, actually people had toxic relationships, or they had problems with their faith, or whatever it is. So I realized that it's not just how much we exercise and what food we eat that's important to our overall health and well-being. It's about faith, family, food, fitness, detox, sleep, and stress management. They're all vital to our health. And really, I looked at that and it was seven. It was seven things. And so I came up with 7 chapters in my book with those titles, and actually thought, wow, 7 is very significant in the Bible.
Yeah.
It means perfection and completion. So that wasn't a coincidence that that was placed on my heart. And so I started writing about each of those chapters and how important, how paramount all of those 7: faith, family, food, fitness, detox, sleep, and stress management are important to our health. And if one of those are off balance, well, we're going to be sick and thick and tired. Something is going to affect us. And what's happening is people are walking around sick and thick and tired, and they don't even know it. They just think it's because they're getting older, or it's the
Yeah.
new norm that they don't feel good. They don't realize that they're off balance in one of those areas. And so I'm going to be talking about those 7 truths at the conference, and talking about the 4 important keys that I teach my patients on. Meaning, number 1, set realistic goals. Number 2, journal. You cannot manage what you don't measure, whether it's your finances or whether it's your dietary habits. You've got to journal, even how you feel. Also, balance. Number 3 is so important. It's about mind, body, soul, spirit. All 4 of those are very important to our overall health: mind, body, soul, spirit. It's important of what you read, what you hear, what you say. It all affects your body. And also, I want to talk about not looking back. The reason why we have a big windshield in our car is so we can look forward, in a small rear view mirror,
Yeah.
so we don't look back as much, especially when you're driving. But looking forward, we've all made mistakes with our dietary habits or our relationships or this or that, but you can move forward. You can have a new day every single day. And, these 4 things help us to gain energy and strength and focus and peace that surpasses all understanding. Sometimes, there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world, or there's hard things going on in our life. We're going through dark times, we're going through difficult times. And I always think about the fact that, you may be walking around with a broken heart and people don't see it. Just like you're walking around with broken ribs. People don't see the pain that you're going through. Yet you walk through life with a smile on your face, and people don't know what you're going through. But we can change what's going on in our life every single day by the decisions that we make. Everything in life is a decision. So I'm going to be talking about all of that.
I love it. I can't wait. And if you would like to see Robbie, we still have tickets available. They are selling fast and it will sell out. So Medical Freedom Northwest, go to our website, mlrx.com, and you can get those tickets. As we wind this podcast up, Robbie, tell us what you have a passion for.
Life in general, life, family, friends, and vitality. As I get older now, I mean, I still feel like I'm 30. I have to admit.
Well, you look like it.
Thank you. Well, you guys, you should talk. Both of you, taking it off the charts. It's impressive. But, really vitality for every day. I mean, we get to wake up every day with breath in our lungs. I mean, that's the first blessing. If you don't know what to be thankful for, think about the fact that God woke you up this morning for a divine purpose with his breath in your lungs. And you're having a good day because of that. Because at any moment, our life can change on a dime. And we're not promised tomorrow. So life in general is such a blessing.
Awesome. I love that. You are just such an inspiration, Robbie. And it's amazing you're 69. And I guess next time we have you on, we're going to have to say staying fit after 70.
Well, I'm 69 in May, so
oh, okay. We got a year. We got over a year. All right. It looks like we have a couple comments, Zoe. Let's look at those comments. Or are they spam?
They're just hello.
And one says, please leave conference info. We'll do that later. So, Robbie, thank you for being on. You've helped us realize our goal, which is to educate and empower individuals to take charge of their own health. So thank you.
Well, and thank you. And thank you for all you two do. I mean, you need to have a Northeast conference, by the way.
And listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Tune in Thursday to our midweek scheduled podcast. We will have Dr. Richard Edgerly on our podcast to talk about why he changed his business model as a doctor. So tune in to Health Solutions, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Thursday. Thank you for tuning in. So go ahead.